What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Landon Raby. With me, Dylan Taylor. We got Caleb Mitchell in the background producing for us. Talking about Tennessee, kind of a disappointing weekend, I guess, to open the season in the desert. But I hate the saying that a loss is a good thing, but I do think they got quality experience out there in Arizona. Quality pitching with Grand Canyon and Arizona. TJ Nichols is going to be a guy that's probably going to be in the bigs one day for Arizona. Markle was a crafty lefty for Grand Canyon that really pitched well, and then apparently they pitched their best guy out of the pen against us. So when you have that number two ranking, you're getting everybody's best shot, and I think that's what this weekend was about. And this is a new team. I think Tony Vitello said it earlier in the year or earlier in the offseason that maybe we're a little bit overranked. And a lot of that had to do with what you got coming back pitching wise. Pitching wasn't the issue this weekend. Pitching was phenomenal pretty much all weekend. The bats got to get going, and I think that'll come, especially when you get Griffin Merritt really solidified in this lineup. You get Maui Ahuna back. I'm sure we'll talk about that debacle later on in the show. But it's early. We're not hitting the panic button. I mean, there's a reason why Tennessee didn't go down too much in rankings. Number one, Arizona and Grand Canyon are pretty good programs. Grand Canyon was in a regional last year. Arizona was in a regional. The last time Tennessee was in Omaha, Arizona was right there with them. So, no slouches in terms of those two programs. They did get a win on Sunday. That was good to kind of at least end it on a high note. I got the bats going a little bit, but it's early, and upsets happen. Tennessee did not play well Friday and Saturday night. I think Saturday was a lot more frustrating than Friday night just because of the errors and the base running mistakes and things like that. But you had VMI who beat Mississippi State this weekend when Mississippi State was up 10-0. Lipscomb beat Notre Dame in a series. Texas is 0-3. Stuff like this happens. So let's not hit the panic button. I mean, Tennessee did lose to Tennessee Tech last season. So things happen, but your pitching staff is going to keep you in ball games. And I think that was the main takeaway I had from this weekend. Dylan, I kind of want to hear from you. What was your kind of takeaways?
Yeah, I mean it's baseball, right? Like it's not week one doesn't kill you. I mean,
Sure.
I'm kind of in your camp. I think the Saturday slate was a little bit more, just more frustrating. I think is what you said. I think it's the word you use, just because it's you see the talent, but it's unproven talent, right? Like, and that's been the storyline kind of going into the whole off season is, you see number one in some power rankings, you see number two in some rankings. So regardless, everybody knows the talent that's on the team, but it's unproven. And that's what makes it frustrating. But I mean, we've seen Georgia State in week one before. Like we know that pain too well, but that's a different sport. That's a season ruiner in that sport. Baseball, you can bounce back from this. And like you just said, there was a whole list of top teams this weekend that had struggles, and they're bringing back more than Tennessee did. Maybe not pitching wise, but in the lineup for sure. So, I mean, it's frustrating because, I mean, you want to win every game, and I know they do too. But, I mean, yeah, we can get into how much we think this is going to affect the actual season later, but I mean, I'm not worried still.
Yeah, again, going back, I hate that a loss is like a good thing, but Tennessee got humbled, got hit in the mouth a little bit this weekend, and maybe that was good for them. It's like, hey, just because you're the best team in the country pretty much all of last season, this is a totally different team, and they look like a totally different team. They look like a team that had two of their best bats out for those two losses, in Griffin Merritt and Maui Ahuna, and it just kind of your pitching kept you in it like the entire time. So, I think that pitching staff is, and I don't even think they had their best. I mean, I don't think Chase Dolander or Chase Burns would say that was their best outing. Maybe Drew Beam would say that he was pretty incredible on Sunday. But yeah, those two
With the
guys are
purple
probably
glove.
purple
With the
glove.
purple
Yeah,
glove.
yeah, that's sick. Yeah, but a lot to kind of take in. I mean, everybody is new in the field, and I think the outfield is going to have a competition during these two games against Alabama, A&M on tomorrow and Wednesday, and then Dayton this weekend. I just no one really solidified themselves, and I think if you want to solidify yourself in this lineup, you got to hit the ball. And I think that's exactly what Cal Stark did this weekend was, hey, in my limited opportunities, when I get a chance, I'm going to hit the ball. I'm going to make sure I'm in this lineup somewhere. And I think that's, if he's not catching, he's going to be your DH
Yeah.
Going forward, unless somebody else, beats him out somehow, some way.
Yeah. I want to throw back just because I thought about this earlier today, and I wanted to ask you, talking about Vitello's comments, and you want to say in a sick, twisted way, but maybe it's not. Do you think Vitello, I don't want to say liked the way this weekend turned out, but do you think he kind of liked the way it turned out? He obviously he never wants to lose, but it's kind of I hate to draw comparisons to Saban, but the coach that kind of has it all and knows that he does. You use the phrase "got hit in the mouth." Do you think he kind of liked that a little bit?
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a "I told you so" in there. Yeah, sure. I mean, you can always come up with a learning point from this. So yeah, I'm sure hopefully looking back on this season, he's like, yeah, absolutely, that was the best thing for us. I mean, Connor Pavoloni texted me like that after that Friday night. It was like, I mean, people have no clue. Like, Arizona's a good baseball team.
Yeah.
And they're facing a future big leaguer in TJ Nichols, and they forget that we lost to Texas early in that season. I mean, it wasn't necessarily that close either.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented. Like Pavoloni would probably know better than anybody too. Like that was probably their jump start to the season. Like it's especially with as many young guys that are unproven as we have. I know Vitello hates losing, but I feel like that'll be something that maybe not the Arizona loss as much, just because they are a proven team. Like maybe not as much. We don't know what they're going to be this year, obviously, but it looks like they got a solid squad. But the other two, I mean, you handled your business on the Sunday, but I would be surprised if we don't look back and kind of say like it's probably good that they got hit in the mouth this early, because we're kind of wondering with basketball, like is the hot streak going to come at the right time? Because especially baseball and basketball, they're more streaky sports. I mean, they just are. So I'm not to say this is probably the only rough patch the team's going to hit this year, because I'm sure there's going to be more struggles, especially offensively. But kind of nice to see a couple standout players, but you can go to a couple more that got some chances last year and say, hey, like, it's you now. This is your show.
Yeah, and you're finding an uphill battle from the get-go. 3 hours before the game, you get told your best MLB prospect isn't even going to be in the lineup. Or I guess best MLB prospect in the lineup wasn't going to be there. So, I mean, that took a toll, I'm sure. That was kind of a gut punch. And, from like 2020, that team that went to the regional, or sorry, 2019, 2020 was you started off hot as you can be, and then COVID happened, but you still had that core come back for 2021. That team went to Omaha. 2022, you're probably one of the best teams in the country. You still have that core and Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, Luke Lipsius, Evan Russell, who have been in that program for so long, and now here we are, like everybody's new. Except your pitching staff. The only two people I think that had any kind of impact on that team that went to Omaha was Camden Sewell and Kirby Coleman. Those two are pitchers. There's not a single person in that lineup had any sort of playing time. Maybe Kyle Booker very sparingly, but that's it.
Yeah, that may have been the best we've seen Kyle Booker too. Like, I mean, I hope he gets it going this year, because we've seen what he can do. But yeah, it's a good point, because I mean, the nucleus. Talent's one thing, but having a talented nucleus is another thing, because I'm sure there'll be guys that'll step up on this team. It's kind of what I think we talked about the first episode last year. Like, you have some proven guys there. It was more spot based last year on who's going to step up at this spot. This year it's everywhere. Not pitching, obviously. I mean, a couple spots in the bullpen, but I kind of like it, honestly. I mean, you get used to the guys like Gilbert, Beck that you mentioned, Lipsius. which I mean, I think I saw Vitello's comment this offseason. I may be wrong, but that I think he said Burke probably should have had the opportunity to be the everyday first baseman last year, but Luke was just provides so much experience there. So
Right.
it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to see that talent is truly going to win out this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you gotta you don't have those already solidified captains or leaders on this team. It's like everybody's so new, or you have guys that are coming off a freshman year that are expected to be leaders, and I'm sure it's a shock to them because they haven't had to do that up to this point. You had, like you mentioned, Luke and Evan and all those guys, like they were your leaders, and you knew that. It was a lot easier to go out there and hit a freaking bomb because you had guys behind you. You weren't expected to be the guy. And it just seemed like this weekend maybe there was a little bit of like, who's the guy? Jared Dickey, I think, is one of the best hitters in college baseball when he's at his best. And, first game he goes 0 for 5. And from what I've heard from the offseason, and he even said this, that the ball's looking like a beach ball, where he goes 0 for 5 the first game, and it's like you probably never get that again.
Maybe not in his whole career.
Yeah, I mean he's that good. It was just a weird weekend of baseball, or especially those first two nights. And we'll talk about Friday night a little bit. You get a run in the first inning, good start. Dolan runs in a little bit of trouble, gives up a run, and then you have a guy that he throws a fastball, and when you're throwing that hard, if somebody barrels it, it's going somewhere. And he barreled it, and it went out, and Tennessee just couldn't get anything going after that first inning. I don't think they got a single hit until like the seventh. Just uncharacteristic from a Tennessee team that has been so good offensively. I thought one of the weirdest stats of the weekend, not a single double. I mean, they lit up doubles last year.
Yeah,
and again, different team, but like that's who they were. It was extra base hits. It was getting guys in scoring position and making sure you're getting those guys in, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't move anybody. They'd get a lead runner on first and couldn't do anything with them.
Well, it's just weird to see 15 hit. You say 15 hits in 2 games, and you're like, oh, that's not that bad. But I just wonder. I mean, it's obviously not, because you see the result on the scoreboard in the first 2. For a while, I'm like, is part of the overreaction just, and credit where it's due, I don't see too many people just completely freaking out. Like, I mean, you see a couple dumb tweets, but that's just going to happen when you have that many people. But you say 15 hits in the first 2 games, and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. But I think it's just because we're used to seeing 15 hits through 4 innings sometimes from the team in orange. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good sign that I think 1 through 6 hit, what was it, 275 on the weekend? I think it was around that, 275. And then, I mean, it's kind of, it wasn't as much last year, but 7, 8, 9 is kind of where you get to find that combination of guys that are going to work. And honestly, that's my main thing is, the talent's there. So it may be something as simple as just changing the order up. Like sometimes it can just be that simple as this guy should be hitting 6th instead of 2. This guy should be in the 7th spot. Like you never know. It could be something that simple. But I mean, I hadn't heard the quote from Jared Dickey that the ball looked like a beach ball, so that's very exciting because I think he'll end the year. I don't know if we're going to get into predictions or not, but I'm saying he's probably going to end the year as the just best pure hitter on the team. I don't know if he'll have the most home runs because Blake Burke is a man child, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like your guys that had that impact last year, and Blake Burke and Christian Moore, those are going to be, your power hitters, people you rely on to get people in, and that was the issue. Is like people like 2 through 6 were getting on base, and Jared Dickey did a fine job. Like I think he got 2 hits the rest of the weekend, so he did get some hits in there, but after that, it was just like no one can get anybody around. No, there was 3 missed bunt opportunities that They couldn't get it down, and that's what caused, you're not getting runners in. That's mistakes that Tennessee doesn't normally make in the past years, is base running errors. I mean, Zane Denton, who's a veteran in this league, gets hosed from right field trying to stretch. Um, I think he was on first, but he tried to stretch it to get to third and gets thrown out by a mile. You have Austin Jaslove, who I thought did a really good job of, this weekend in the field. He did have an error, but I feel like it could have been scooped at the same time. Trying to make a play, it gets past the first baseman, it hits the net and comes right back, and he gets hosed at second. Just stuff like that, especially when you're in a tight ball game. And maybe that is, one of those kind of learn lessons, learn it the hard way that, hey, you can't do that. We need you on. Yeah, but if, I don't know who was after, I don't know if he was the 8th or 9th hitter but Jared Dickey is probably going to get in at bat. And as good as he was last year, you got to trust in your guys behind you that they're going to get you in.
It's probably because he's coming from such an inferior Alabama squad. That's going to be my theory on that. But he's used to having to do too much just because everybody else around him sucks. But
right.
I mean, I think I had the theory last year that maybe in selling our soul to be this good, base running was the thing we had to trade out, because that's the most. I mean, I get it's college baseball, so you're going to see more mental mistakes like that.
You're not
guys,
pros.
Right. Guys thinking, of course, like I played against this high school last year where the kid in right field that's going to be throwing it to third base, like, just took a extremely hard algebra test that day. So he's probably not going to throw it right on the money. I've got 3 on this. Well, you're in the SEC now. So it's stuff like that. I mean, last year we never really saw the base running get cleaned up. So hopefully this year, hey, new year, new me. We'll start with that. Maybe it's just some opening week jitters, and base running will be a strength of this team. But it is kind of that's feels bad to complain about anything with what we've seen from this program the past couple of years. But that is the one thing where I'm like, okay, like, by this point, it's a little bit old by now.
Yeah, and let's talk about Saturday a little bit. So, just errors. I mean, that was the story of the game. Is like you win that game if you don't have those errors. I mean, they get a routine bunt down, you field it, make a throw, gets past the. I think Christian Moore is covering first base there. Gets past him. They take the lead, and like a 1-point lead shouldn't be that much for this ball club, but this weekend it was. And you're gonna have games like that where you just don't have it. Bats come and go. You talked about it being a streaky sport. It is. Sometimes you got to, Jared Dickey seeing the ball like a beach ball, and goes 0 for 5. I mean, it can turn in an instant. So you can't have those mistakes, and that's. But Grand Canyon's a good ball club. The people that you have freaking out on Twitter is like they don't know that.
Yeah.
They see Grand Canyon, and it's not Grand Canyon like we're playing them in football. I don't even think they have a football program, but
it's
if we
from
lose
the commercials, right? Grand Canyon, just the commercials.
Yeah. They're trying to get you to do something online, trying to get that master's.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them for trying to promote higher education. Good for them. But I mean, they have Marco. I mentioned pitch well, and that Jacob Wilson, he's a freaking stud. I mean,
they got ball players. They're not.
And it was good for them to go in a hostile environment. That number 2 team in the country, that was their first televised game ever in their program. So they showed out, and they let Tennessee have it. And maybe that took into account those errors. Maybe that helped that out some. But I mean, that's what you're going to see in a regional or a super regional. Those hostile environments, or just in SEC play. So I think that is good for them to kind of get that out of the way, see that, and then you get non-conference play where you're able to work on your lineup a little bit. Those first 2 games going against good competition, you probably don't want to tweak things too much. See what you got, and then but Alabama, A&M, Dayton, those are 2 teams where like you can play at Dylan Drawling, see what he's got, Reese Chapman, get that competition going in the outfield. I don't know where we're at with Maui Huna. I guess we can, talk about that. But, I mean, how does that even happen?
Yeah,
I'm still just mind blown. I know I talked about it last night on our show, but I have no clue how that happens.
one quick thing before Huna, just one quick thing. I think we talked about last year how Vitello's the kind of coach where just players take on his personality because you like he's one of those people that just he fires you up.
True.
This is really the first time that we've seen this team be the hunted before. Like because last year, I mean, I'm sure they used it as fuel, but what were we? Were we fourth preseason in the East?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
fourth or sixth. Yeah, and we knew that was too low. We're like, well, this team's going to be better than that. Other people, the national media.
Yeah, we got Drew Gilbert. We automatically should be like at least third.
Right. But the national media, and I mean, we've seen a couple other like Twitter accounts, podcasts that how much did they feature Tennessee last year? And this is the first time now where, I mean, love it or hate it, Tennessee baseball is a national brand now. So it is the first time that you're really entering the season where you've clearly got people that don't like you and you've got to deal with every day being the villains, loving it, and actually being able to get over the hump. So that was just something quick that I thought of. But yeah, with the only thing I can think of with the Ahuna situation is I just want to see a list of what, say you're an NCAA employee that's over, I don't know what the enforcement department. I don't know. I'm maybe making this up. I want to see your day, like 2:30 p.m. What are you doing? Like just show me what you're doing right then, because I don't understand how these things take that long. And if they want to come out with the line that we've heard with Coy here recently that it was USC didn't do this with the paperwork or something. If it's Cade Mays, there was a holdup from Georgia on this side. Having the holdup is one thing, but maybe I'm just completely stupid, but should you not, if you're the NCAA, should you not be required to say, here's what the holdup is, here's why it's taking so long, here's how to fix it? Like that seems
so hold people accountable. Yeah, that's crazy talk. I mean, we can't hold umpires accountable, so there's no way we're holding any kind of NCAA employee.
Like it being an issue is the one thing, but not knowing what the issue is what kills me. Like if there's a I don't want to say if there's a legitimate problem, because I mean we've seen the NCAA, their power just is getting, in my opinion, weaker by the day. So you wonder how much longer you're actually going to have to deal with problems from the NCAA. But in the meantime, like just tell us what's going on, and here's why it's not fixed. I feel like, I mean, you're still going to have the really angry fans, and that's rightfully so. But I feel like that would clear up a lot of it. Is okay. Well, Kansas hasn't done this yet. Then you get Vol Twitter involved, and it's solved the next day. So it makes zero sense. I want to see an NCAA employee's daily schedule and just see what they do all day.
Well, I mean, this is Tennessee, so nothing is free. So exactly. I know, Tennessee basketball, throwing a shot at them. This is a baseball show, so I can. Free throws aren't free. We saw that on Saturday. Free transfers apparently aren't free either. I don't understand. I also don't understand, I heard today that Tennessee was kind of blindsided by it. I mean, how are you blind? Maybe the baseball program's blindsided. I don't know what that looks like, but how is the compliance office at the University of Tennessee blindsided by Maui Ahuna not being eligible? It's one or the other. You got to check or not. I mean, dot your I's, cross your T's. Make sure everything is ready to go before you get on that bus to go to the airport to go to Arizona. I don't understand how we were just blindsided. How did we let 27 of his family members travel from Hawaii to Arizona and not find out 3 hours before? I mean, that's unreal. Tennessee should foot that bill. Eating, the rooms they stayed in, airfare, all of it should be covered. I don't care if they have to put it under an NIL deal. I don't even know if that's legal, but do something to make that right, because that's absolute crap.
Bruce Pearl says it is, so it's legal. It's legal. I don't. I like to
what
think,
are we doing?
I like to think that maybe somewhere in the athletic department, there's just an intern whose job it is to to deliver the bad news, and then when the coach inevitably goes off, they can be like, "Oh, it was just an intern. Like he's no longer with us." I like to think there's an intern somewhere that on Thursday knew. Or no, when did they leave to travel? Probably what, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, something like that,
So
probably.
maybe like the day, maybe Monday, the day before, he's sitting there just at his desk, just sweating, knowing that he's about to have to walk in and talk to Tony Vitello and tell him that your star shortstop is not eligible, and he just chose not to do it because
Yeah.
he likes his own life and wants to stay alive.
I don't know why when you said that, I just thought of like Jonah Hill in 21 Jump Street, like when he's in high school and he's got braces and he, dyes his hair like Slim Shady. I don't know why, but that's the intern that I have in my mind. That's got to deliver that
I
news
feel
to
I feel
Tony
like that would
Vitello.
fit. I feel like that would fit. You are 75% on the money there.
All right, let's talk about Sunday a little bit. Let's liven things up. I guess we forgot to talk about the umpire situation. That was just, but Sunday,
More of the same. That's all we need to be
yeah,
said. Like it's
got the bats going. 10 hits. Christian Moore goes yard. Blake Burt, the most beautiful swing in college baseball, goes yard. Don't know how far it went. Stream was awful. MLB.com. What are you doing? All these people like that make so much money. I just don't understand. Like I want to know their schedule too. Like how does somebody on a freaking Motorola Razor film this game and put it on MLB.com? I don't understand. But
how you grow the game. They say they're
yeah,
growing the game, but
yeah, he goes yard and has a triple, and they were just aggressive on the base pass. I mean, it is lower competition. I understand that, but it just seemed like maybe they got a little bit of mojo back. As soon as Blake Burke kind of opened it up there, it was. I think that was in the fourth inning. It was over. I mean, against our pitching, Drew Beam was perfect through his first 11 batters. He threw, I think, 6 innings, 6 Ks. So he was just phenomenal in his season debut. And Tennessee just looked like a better team. Again, they're going against lower competition. You should, but to get a shutout win, I think it was huge to cap the weekend off like that.
yeah, I don't know if it was your tweet earlier, but I saw it just right before we hopped on about. I feel bad every time I think of Drew Beam because I'm like, I just wonder because you see Dolander and you see Burns, and you're like, okay, well, Beam is the worst out of them. Like, we're not saying he is, but just from a tool standpoint, like he's not the most talented of the three. But I feel bad every time I think of him because every time my first initial thought is like, well, who's the next Burns or Dolander that eventually is kind of going to overtake him there? And every time he goes out, he just shoves it. It seems like
Yeah.
so. There's got to be a switch in my head that flips eventually where I'm like, this dude's legit. And we obviously learned it last year, so maybe it's just the off season that I've forgotten this, but maybe it was the purple glove. I don't know what it was. The dude's filthy, and it's refreshing to see because I'm trying to think of other sports anywhere that has right now, obviously, that has just 3 established stars or that their entire group is made up of proven stars. There's not many throughout all of college athletics, maybe professional athletics too, that has just pure talent, young talent, and guys that went out there and did it when they were young, and they're going to do it again this year too. I mean, I don't think I saw anything from the 3 of them that gave me any concerns too. So once they really get rolling, and I mean, you've got Halverson too waiting in the wings. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's if you don't want to say if any of them struggle, but you get an injury, like it. I mean, it's just an abundance of riches. So that was my main takeaway is just how everybody better enjoy this while it lasts because by the end of the year, I don't know that we'll ever see this much talent in one position group.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for Dolander to be gone and Drew Beam and the Sunday Cream isn't going to be a thing anymore because I mean I think Dolander said it a couple weeks ago. He said that these 2 guys, Chase Burns and Drew Beam, are Friday night starters anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's crazy we're talking about Drew Beam being, that Sunday guy, and he was a freshman All-American. Like he's not like underrated, but comparatively speaking, he is the most underrated person on this team. And it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just that's just where the Tennessee is with this pitching rotation. It's awesome to see, and props to all those guys because they shoved it. Seth Alverson, Andrew Lindsay, Zach Joyce, neither of those three guys threw last season. It's been over a calendar year since any of them have played in a college baseball game, and they just lit it up. Zach Joyce comes in, bases loaded, 2 straight strikeouts, nothing, just light work. I thought Andrew Lindsay, who we heard a ton about in the offseason, looked as good as you can get, also made some plays. Wouldn't, I don't recommend, falling backwards as you're trying to throw a ball to home, but he did it well. He got the out, so I
Hey,
guess
he knows
whatever
now.
it takes.
If,
Yeah,
if you
whatever
can,
it takes.
hey, if it works, do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it next time, but
Yeah.
hey.
And then Seth Alverson, he was fantastic. I mean, this whole pitching rotation, 27 innings that they played, 28 strikeouts. And I think 19 of those were from the starters. So 19 was that big three. Is that what we're calling them, the big three? I kind of hate, I just want something original.
No,
I'm not creative enough to come up with
I'm not either.
it.
Creativity's never been my strong suit.
It would have been real easy if, Drew was also named Chase, but he's not. So,
Well, I thought of something. The best way to describe it is Drew Beam is an oh yeah and guy. Like in my head, he's the two. You say it. You got Chase Burns, you got Dolander. Oh yeah, and you got Drew Beam. When on any other team, he would be. You've got Drew Beam. Like
yeah,
that's
he's the opposing teams. He's the oh shit guy. It's like,
yeah,
hey, we're through Friday and Saturday, guys. Oh shit, we got Drew
yeah,
Beam today.
yeah. Oh yeah, and there's Drew Beam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his nickname. Maybe we just say the first two and then oh yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know how well that flows on a t-shirt though.
Yeah, maybe not. Print the shirts though. Let's get into you got an MVP. Actually, let's talk about the umpire real quick. How do you what is your thoughts on the clock rules?
I don't remember if I said it last year or not. I mean, I think it was just today that they announced or they're proposing changes for college football to speed the game up. And I get it. I mean, for baseball, I understood it the most. I don't really know what's going on with the new college football rules. I don't know why they're
Yeah, we get 12 games a season, but yeah, let's
right.
try to get those as done as fast as possible. Yeah,
I think I made the quote last year of I like watching sports, so watching less sports, no. So like
Yeah.
I don't ever complain about the length of something because here's the same, like you have the option to turn it off if you get tired of it. Like why ruin it for the rest of the people that want to watch it even more? Like
Right.
it's like I don't remember what skit it was or what joke it was where it's like how does cyberbullying exist? Just close your computer. Like that's the same thing in my mind. Like if you don't want to watch it anymore, if you don't want it in front of you, change the channel, turn it off.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing where I just hate. I know I've talked about it before. As a former catcher, like nowhere near this level, I hate how much they're taking the catcher out of the game with whatever the wrist devices are that calls signs that basically just takes the catcher out of it. They're bigger
They're
bases.
pretty much they're a backstop that throws it
Yeah,
back to the pitcher.
you're just back there to get beat up now, and I'm like, well, that's just ridiculous with as much as they go through back there. So it's just stupid on that end, and then on the umpire, like the biggest worry I have with that is does that umpire do that because it's Tennessee? If that's Florida up there, does he call time? That's the only thing where I'm like, embracing the villain role is fun. It's little stuff like that where I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but does this team get dealt with that way? Because if you use the excuse that he didn't hear him, he doesn't need to be out there then. Because I mean, it's not like you're in Neyland Stadium and you can't hear yourself think. Like I mean,
Right.
decent crowd all weekend, but not.
And it wasn't like it was Saturday night at Grand
Right.
Canyon. It was a neutral side at Salt River at Talking Stick. I mean, there wasn't that many people, like you
You're
said.
what, 4 feet away from him, and
And
he
most of
is.
them are it's Maui's family that,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
even watching him play.
They're quiet now because their boy's not out there. So
Yeah.
he's standing 4 feet from you. If you didn't hear the first one, hey, cool. If you didn't hear the second one, it happens. When somebody's screaming so hard that their head is literally bobbing back and forth, like that's a problem if you can't hear him. So
Right.
I don't buy that excuse. I don't know what he was doing, but I hope we don't see more of that just because we're Tennessee now. That's my main fear.
It definitely looked like he was kind of power hungry in that.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have to give it to you, so I'm not. And that's not what the rule is for.
No.
I know it's up to the umpire's discretion, but that's probably like a kid's in the middle of his windup. He's not going to give somebody time. I mean, this kid is just standing there. I mean, like through the whole sequence that he's calling time, he's still standing there. Luckily, it didn't. It turned into a walk, so it didn't really matter. But people online saying like, "Oh, Tennessee deserves this." Again, this is it's a new team. Like it. I mean, but as an umpire, I'm kind of thinking of it like that shouldn't matter. Like your emotions shouldn't be involved anyway.
Right.
And like you saw what Tony Vitello did to Jeffrey against Alabama last year. Do you want that? Is that what you're wanting?
I'd say yes, sir.
You just want a chest bump from Tony Vitello? Just go and ask him. He'll probably just do it.
And good on Christian Moore for turning around and giving it to him. And that it looked like the umpire didn't really have a clear answer, just kind of threw his hands up. So I don't know what he said back to him, but good on him for not just taking it too. Because I mean, now, I mean, he did get a lot of playing time for a young guy, but good on him for actually standing up for himself and having a beautiful at bat there, but saying like, hey, like you hope the emotions aren't involved there, but and it's one of those things that. That's the last thing I'll say, but it's one of those things that sucks too, because if that is what it is, you'll never get that clear answer though. They'll never come out and say, now maybe if there's a documentary on this team on a 30 for 30 and they have an umpire that says, yeah, I did really hate them. I had money on Arkansas. Like that's what I did. So maybe then you get an answer, but I'm saying likely you're probably not. So I hope that doesn't happen, because then it's kind of just, you're up to umpires' feelings there, which is never a safe place to be.
Right. And then they gave Arizona a phantom time call. Cal Stark about lost his mind. He was like, "Who called time?" He was like, "I don't know." He's like, "What?
What are we doing?"
Yeah. Unreal. But again, that it is what it is. You hope umpires kind of leave everything out of it. Again, because umpires get heckled everywhere.
Right.
And, Jeffrey, he deserved that one. Whether Tony Vitello should have done that or not, he deserved to get chewed out for that. Well, let's go MVP. Kind of close this one out. It's a good episode, by the way. Me first. Man.
I know mine if you want me to.
Yeah, you go ahead. I just don't want to take yours.
I'll go Beam, just because a lot of the reasons I said earlier, just because I continue. I think several times I had him last year, and it's always we keep making base running mistakes. Hand up, we're an accountability show here. Here's my accountability. I keep doubting, not even doubting, because I know he's so good now, but something in my brain just has to flip a switch where I'm like, this dude is a legit front end starter for every other team. But we've got the good problems now where I'm like, for some reason in my head, I'm just like, oh, Beam's going today. I hope we can pull this one out, when all the kid's done since he's been here is pull him out. So he's mine.
When we started SEC play, it was no longer Drew Beam is only in there because Blade Tidwell was hurt.
Right.
Drew Beam has earned the right. And he comes from a great family too. I love those people. I can't wait to see them probably this weekend. I don't know if they'll be there on Tuesday and Wednesday, but yeah, just phenomenal job by him. And I was going to take a cop-out answer and just say Frank Anderson, because I thought the pitching staff was that good and as advertised. But I'm going to go Cal Stark. he was somebody that surprised me. I didn't think he would have much of an impact with Charlie Taylor, but came in as that DH or a catcher at times. Went 4 for 8 on the weekend, 2 RBIs, hit that bomb against Grand Canyon. I thought he looked good behind the plate. I'm not an expert catcher. I never played catcher in my life, so I have no clue. You'd be better on that aspect. So if you kind of want to give any insight of how you thought he played behind the plate, but I didn't see anything that just kind of like stood out as
Right.
in terms of like, oh man, I wish he would have done that better.
No, I think defensively, yeah, I think both will be pretty good upgrades. I mean, Evan Russell got much better towards the end of last year. I know he was one that kind of that wasn't my weak theme, but it was kind of like if we start to get exposed, it will be that, and we saw that at times. So I don't think the clutch gene may not be there as much. Like Evan Russell put on his clutch genes every day, strapped him up tight. So you're going to miss that probably. But on the defensive end, yeah, I thought it was solid for the weekend. And I mean, I don't think there's any other Yadier Molina out anywhere right now in baseball that's going to replace his spot. So you're just looking for quality play, and it's kind of like the offensive lineman of baseball. Like if you're doing your job, nobody's going to notice. It's when you're not doing your job that people are going to start to say like, "What's he doing back there?" So as long as you're not saying that, it's a good spot.
Yeah, 100%. And he's a guy that when you get everybody back, Maui, Griffin, Merritt, you got kind of get that lineup sorted out a little bit. I feel like he's a guy that's probably going to be a little bit toward the bottom just because I think you have really good hitters ahead of him that can really make an impact in the bottom of that order, which you didn't really have a ton of that this past weekend. That 7 through 9 kind of struggled. I know Kyle Booker got a couple hits in there, but just not a great sequence from a lot of those guys. And that's what you're looking for early in the season, guys who can hit. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the guys can go out there and field, and that's part of the game too. But when you look at the pitching you got to score some runs.
Yeah.
So if you're going to solidify yourself in the lineup, you got to do it like Cal Stark did this past weekend and just hit the cover off the baseball.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see what they do there with him as DH. Or I'm very big on Griffin Merritt. I think whether you see him DH, I don't know if you'll see him outfield. It's the good problems to have, like we mentioned before. Cal Stark has swayed me a little bit with how he played. Griffin Merritt was kind of my like preseason. Jared Dickey was the hitter, but Griffin Merritt was kind of the, I guess you could say, breakout player pick. But so it'll be interesting to see. I still think if he's at his best, like he may be the most suited for that role. But I'm excited to see once he gets back just how him, Cal Stark, Taylor, how they platoon 2 of them. So I'm just ready to see that.
Cool. All right. Well, great episode. Great kind of long episode for episode 1, but it was good to have you back, man.
Good to be back.
We'll do this next Monday again. Be back in Lindsey Nelson on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be a long week of baseball, so we're really looking forward to it. Guys, thanks again for listening in, and have a good rest of your week. Thanks.